What is the 80-20 principle and why is it so important for personal trainers to understand? I had a couple of extra minutes here and thought I'd talk a little bit about the benefit of the 80-20 principle for personal trainers. Now, first of all, what is the 80-20 principle? For those of you who have been living under a rock and somehow haven't heard of this, there was an Italian fella back in the day that realized he was breeding rabbits or chickens or something, and he realized that about 80% of the offspring were a result of 20% of the chickens, or rabbits, or whatever. And so the idea is that 80% of our positive outcomes come from 20% of our inputs. Now, the reason that I think this is useful for trainers is that I think most of us, and especially younger trainers, don't realize that 90% of your career, you're going to be working at least with some general population or genpop clients. That can be, and we would call it genpop anybody that's not a competitive athlete, a competitive bodybuilder, a tactical strength and conditioning client. So that could be doctors, soccer moms, weekend warrior golfers, anybody. The trick is you kind of want to train them like athletes still. You want to train them. I mean, what is an athlete? It's just somebody that moves. So it controls their body and then applies that control to a circumstance, right? And that's what people want out of their body. If you're a gardener, if you're chasing your grandkids around, if you are playing pickleball on the weekend, if you're like me and you like to go out and hit the punching bag or whatever, it's all athletic movement. We're just not at that level where our training considerations become professional. That's where the 80-20 principle comes in. We're thinking about risk versus reward. We're thinking about how can I get this person the physical outcomes they need within a manageable context of reward. This is all we do with athletes too, or tactical clients as well. It's just that the rewards are different and the risks are different, right? Practicing your sport burns 10,000 calories a day. The risk of you being overweight is significantly less if I don't program you a bunch of cardio. If you have a full-time athletic trainer and you're doing all of these warm-ups and all of these team things, it's different than if you are a doctor trying to make the most of your few hours a week off before you go and play golf. And so we apply the 80-20 principle, right? What 20% of inputs get this person 80% of the outputs that I would want them to have if they were a professional at whatever they do. Now, obviously, a professional gardener, it's going to be a little trickier, and that's where we get into the art and the craft more than just the science of personal trainer. But say you've got a guy that likes to just play tennis on the weekends or likes to play golf. Obviously, you can't train him like he's Tiger Woods or whoever the current golfer is. I don't know, Jordan something probably. But you can get him a better, stronger swing. You can help him evolve his golf game in a way that he's comfortable with and that is going to help him advance his golf game. Maybe he recovers faster, maybe he sleeps better on nights he golfs, whatever the case may be. You can get him all of that in a disproportionate amount of work. 20% of what you would do with those pro golfers will get you 80% of the way there. Now, the pro golfer needs that other 20%. I'm not saying that like we're all training too hard or anything like that. No. Most professional athletes train appropriately, but most general population clients who, again, if you are an elite train, right, all but the very cream of the cream of the cream of the crop are going to be working with general populations throughout their career, regardless of how good they get. Working with general populations, being able to identify the 20% of the things you could do if all they had to worry about was training that will get them the 80% of the results that come with that scenario, that's going to be invaluable to you in terms of getting them results. And then you tweak as necessary. If they only have time or energy or willpower to do 15%, you take that. Maybe you only get 75% of the results. Or maybe they go, you know what, this is great. Let's ratchet it up a little bit. And you give them 25% of the inputs and they get 83% of the results. If you start from that point, you're always going to be moving in the correct direction. And it's always going to enable you to think about what is the risk reward ratio that I'm comfortable with for this person, right? A gardener maybe doesn't need explosive movement training to the extent that a firefighter does. But a firefighter, the risk reward is completely different. The 80/20 is how you calibrate for that risk reward analysis in your mind. And then it comes down to your preferences, the client's preferences, the realities of what they're dealing with, what risks and what rewards you're comfortable with. But you can always get it to where there's more reward than risk if you start from what if we take 5 movements and 5 results, what one movement can I do that will get me 4 results? If you always think of it that way, you'll always be making progress. Without further ado, go get after it.